My name's John, and my nickname's Dog. I was arrested in 1982, November 3rd, for a 187. That is murder. And I did approximately 29 years and some odd days in there. If we added up till today, it would be, ironically, 29 years, 187 days. I had very little contact with the law, not unless it was moving violations. And because I was afraid of the law. I had a fear for the law. I knew what was happening. I'd seen people out of the neighborhood go to jail, go to prison, and I didn't want that. When I first was arrested on this case, it was like I couldn't believe it. You know, here I was, you know, in some serious trouble. I beat a man to death. Because he threatened to expose me as an alcoholic. And it enraged me. It enraged me so much that I felt, how dare you? And I woke up in jail, and I said, man, you know, they're probably going to kill you. Well, my time in prison began probably pretty much so like anybody else's. You go in and you try to fit in, and you look around and you see what's happening, and it was pretty crazy time, you know. As I had already mentioned, you know, there was a lot of stabbings going on, and race wars, and I was in and out of the hole quite a bit. And about 4 years into my sentence, I picked up a pretty heavy case, and picked up a couple of years shoe term. And truthfully, that was probably the only time in my life since I'd been a child that I found some peace and serenity, because I had that little peace. Because I knew what would happen once they released me from that little cage. I'd go back to the line, and I'd go back to my same behavior. I had no structure in my life at that time. That was the only way that I could abstain from the use of alcohol or drugs. I'd went to about 3 board hearings. They were spaced out 2 years apart. Sometimes it runs a little bit over. And about the 3rd board hearing, I had some contact with the street. I had some people who were coming in and seeing me. They were a husband and wife. They became my sponsors, AA sponsors. And they began to work with me to prepare me for these board hearings, because they read my transcripts and said, really, how could you respond in that manner? You know, this isn't the person that we know, and don't you ever want to get out of prison? You know, and they said, you know that you can. And that was when I began to have a little bit of hope. I did 5 2-year put-offs, and then I did 4 1-year put-offs. And then which I knew the next time I go back, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. I'm gonna get it. And it was a devastating blow of either you got granted a parole date, or the minimum that the board could give you was a 3-year denial, which was like a death sentence to me. And I was all in. I went to the hearing. They deliberated for a very, very long time. And they came back with a 3-year denial, which it took me a year to get over that. If I wasn't as strong in my AA program and the programs that I was involved in prison at that time, I wouldn't be out here today talking to you. And I had put myself back on track. I had a good support system. My sponsors were still with me, and I'd had several men who we sponsored each other in there. We supported each other, and we'd been with each other for a number of years. And they helped me get through it. And I had made a vow that I would do the best I could the next time I came up. And as that time approached, it was a very emotional time for me. And I was a blithering it in. I went to that hearing, and I was granted parole on December 7th, year 2011, Pearl Harbor Day. So it's something that I'll never forget, ever. I got another chance. On May 10th, I walked out of the gate of Solano Prison, where I'd spent my life for the last 20 years. Made it through the governor review, and I got into a little van with a little plastic tub, and was dressed pretty much so like just about everybody else, and some type of new tennis shoe and some jeans or a sweatshirt or a t-shirt. Everybody wears a hat, and, you know, a little ball cap. Got into the van, and the officer took us to a train station, and there he informed us that whatever train or bus came first that we were getting on. I tried to inform him that I was going to Sacramento, and he said, whatever way it's going, that's where you're going. So the train came first, and I ended up going in the wrong direction to the next stop. Once I made it to the next stop, I bought a ticket, and my journey had started on the way to Sacramento. I make it to Sacramento, and I get off the train, and so the first people that I want to call are my sponsors who supported me throughout the years of most of the years of my incarceration. And the cell tower was down. They weren't answering the phone. I knew that something was terribly wrong because they knew that I was out on that day and expecting to call, and so now I got paranoid. And I felt that everybody at the train station was looking at me. And I tried to call Reentry Incorporated. I'd had contact with them for quite a few years. They approved me. Last board hearing that I received the 3-year denial that I talked about, and I remained in contact with them from time to time. I would send them up-to-date letters of what I was doing at that time and when the next parole hearing was coming. And I called them and I couldn't make the phone work. It was a pay phone and I couldn't make the phone work. And I got really scared then, almost to the degree of having a panic attack. And I went to go ask, I seen a couple sitting on the bench in the train station, and as I approached them, the lady had said, "Hey, that guy just got out of the pen." And it was really loud, and it made me go back to the telephone. And now I don't know what to do. I had this guy's name. It's Tom Hall. And there was a number there. And I knew that I couldn't remember because now I'm stuck. And I knew that he had something to do with it. So I put my money in the phone and I called. Fortunately he answered. You know, and I told him who I was. He asked me where I've been. And I said, "Man, trying to get out. I'm sitting on the bench, and it's a pretty warm day. And I'm waiting for this guy Tom to come. I'm waiting for him to come, and it seems like an eternity. Damn, it's hot." And this car pulls up. They ask if I'm so-and-so. And they go, "Okay, come on." And there's 2 guys. Which I found out was a guy who had just gotten out about 40 days before me. And they put my stuff in the car, my little plastic tub that I had, and some relief began to come over me because I was safe, at least for a minute. I didn't know what was to come, but at least I was safe. And you know, my journey began.
I live too hard and long for young money. Matter of fact, I'm flat broke, you brung money. Still I get applause for the balls that I toss. It'll cause these scars across my tongue, money. It's unbelievable the way that I do it. I'm undefeatable, unbeatable, readable, unrepeatable. I'm greedy on a beat with the speed of evil Knievel. Like a radical animal when I'm out of a tentacle. D for dirt and I for insane. R for the rhyme and T